Hello, I am Henry Keane and we are UATV. We are online to give you the Ukrainian perspective of reality of war. Watch in the episode. Special Trump's envoy Keith Kellogg is in Ukraine and is fascinated by Ukrainian high-tech developments. Europe plans to spend additional 100 billion euros to support Ukraine till 2034. Chancellor Merz have found a key to understanding Donald Trump. Learn how he did that. Please comment and subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you're joining the fight against criminal Russian aggression. And welcome to the News Pulse. The US should pay close attention to Ukraine's experience in drone manufacturing. That's according to not only me, but also Trump's special envoy Keith Kellogg, who is currently visiting Kyiv. During his trip, he toured a defense facility and saw Ukraine's technology and innovation in the area with his own eyes.
I saw firsthand how Ukrainian-made drones are being built and developed. Incredible innovation, especially with drones. In this new age type of war they lead, their speed of innovation and ability to recycle is impressive. Our defense industrial base should take notice and adapt. Keith Kellogg, Special Presidential Envoy for Ukraine on X social network.
Meanwhile, the US Department of Defense showcased a new generation of underwater and ground drones. The exhibition took place right along the Pentagon's main corridor. Amongst the prototypes were displayed UAVs designed for both offensive and defensive missions, multi-domain autonomous systems, also firepower and missile launch capable. This equipment is expected to be deployed with the US military in the nearest future. London and Berlin have agreed to help each other if either party is attacked. They will seal the deal today. Bloomberg reports on that. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz will meet British Prime Minister Keir Starmer at a ceremony in London's Victoria and Albert Museum. The agreement also covers nuclear defense and working together to build new weapons, including a missile with a range of over 2,000 kilometers. The agreement also addresses trade migration. The agreement states that in case of an armed attack, the countries will help each other. It reflects the obvious shared concerns of Russian aggression and doubts about the US commitment to NATO. Under Trump, the treaty offers both leaders a chance to strengthen European ties amidst domestic political challenges. The budget for a new era was announced by the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. 2 trillion euros to face possible challenges and prepare for them, and the timeline from year 2028 to 2034.
The budget for 2028 to 2034. It is a 2 trillion budget for a new era. It is a budget that matches Europe's ambition, that confronts Europe's challenges, and that strengthens our independence. The budget is larger, it is smarter, and it is sharper.
Also, the European Union has reserved 100 billion euros for Ukraine in its budget. This financial pledge also covers same timeline 2028 to 2034, and details were also announced by von der Leyen right after a Commission meeting in Brussels.
On top of this, we are setting aside 100 billion euros for Ukraine. You know we have the Ukraine facility for reconstruction. It was initially, with the midterm review, filled with 50 billion. These are slowly but surely going down in the amounts, and therefore we are suggesting 100 billion euros to fill up again the Ukraine facility to support recovery, resilience, and of course their path to the EU membership.
United States Senator Lindsey Graham warned Putin against making a mistake. Recalling how harshly Iran was punished for defying all the warnings, Senator shared his message to dictator Putin on X social network.
If Putin and others are wondering what happens on day 51, I would suggest they call the Ayatollah. If I were a country buying cheap Russian oil, propping up Putin's war machine, I would take President Trump at his word. Lindsey Graham, U.S. Republican Center on X social network.
And just to add to the topic, some in Ukraine hope that Comrade Putin will not take Trump at his word. Some even hope Putin will continue to take Trump's peace efforts for granted, and some even hoping that Putin will continue his ill tactics of arrogantly neglecting reality, thinking of oneself as a mighty Russian overlord and a Soviet Empire backbringer, a nuclear club waver, and God knows what else. And those who hope for Putin continuing doing what he's doing for more of 50 days, probably they hope for what is known to any historian is true. Best weapon against dictatorship is dictator's arrogance. So some are looking forward not for 50 more days of terror, no, but to actually see what happens on a day 51. Russia is drifting towards becoming a raw material appendix to China. It is unable to continue fighting independently without technological support from Beijing, says Andriy Kovalenko, head of the Center for Countering Disinformation at Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council. Also, according to Mr. Kovalenko, the Russian Federation will also face a dead end in both literal and figurative meanings on the front lines without ammunition flow from North Korea. The Kremlin has become and is growing increasingly dependent on its partners.
The loss of influence in Central Asia, the post-Soviet space, the Middle East, and the gradual defeat in Africa, which only consumes Russian resources. This is all about Putin. Russia is losing the war against Ukraine, and it's becoming just a tool for other geopolitical players to protect their own interests. Maximum disgrace. Andriy Kovalenko, head of the Center for Countering Disinformation at the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Nevertheless, Russian will to kill civilians in Ukraine has not gotten anywhere. The number of wounded as a result of the recent Russian terror strike on Dobropilye in Donetsk region has increased to 28 people, with 2 killed, reports the National Police of Ukraine. Russians deliberately dropped a glide bomb at the center of Dobropilye during a rush hour. At least 13 residential buildings damaged, as well as 54 shops and retail outlets. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reacted to another cynical Russian terror strike.
So far, we know that 11 people have been injured and 2 killed. My condolences to their families. All services are involved and doing everything they can to save as many people as possible. This is just horrendous, dumb Russian terror. There is no military logic behind their strikes, simply an attempt to kill as many as possible. The present-day Russia is all about vile strikes like this. We will respond.
President Trump's recent slandline, indeed, shift towards supporting Ukraine, including a new weapons deal and threats of sanctions against Russia, has hit the nerve of some within Russia's elite. While the Kremlin publicly downplays Trump's remarks, of course, concerns are growing that Putin may have missed a chance to de-escalate the war. Critics within the Kremlin itself worry Putin's imperial ambitions and blind stubbornness has deepened Russia's isolation and prolonged the war unnecessarily, and its ending now is growing increasingly unfavorable for Russia. Indeed, Trump's announcements about selling advanced weapons to Ukraine and pressuring Russia is his strongest move of support for Kyiv after a month of dramatically shifting positions since his inauguration. For a time, it appeared that the US leader was more sympathetic to Russia, even with top US envoys repeating Russian dictator Putin narratives. But now, after Putin openly played Trump, we see a growing dissatisfaction of the new administration with Putin's stubbornness. Moscow's reaction on the Trump's demand to reach a ceasefire agreement in Ukraine within the next 50 days, or for the Kremlin to face consequences, is typical Russian. The Kremlin continues to inflate cheeks and claims that Russia can withstand any economic pressure and even keep fighting for as long as its Tsar wants it to. While Institute Study of War thinks that diplomacy and talks is not what is needed to sit Putin at the negotiation table.
Western economic pressure combined with sustained Western military support to Ukraine is necessary to enable Ukrainian forces to inflict battlefield losses on Russia, to force Putin to reassess his calculation and engage substantively in peace negotiations to end the war. From the Institute for the Study of War report.
Putin is apparently not intimidated by the possibility of harsher US sanctions. This, according to three sources close to the Kremlin, is reported by Reuters. The Russian dictator is determined to keep fighting until the West accepts his demands, no matter how inflated and inadequate they are. The sources also warned that Putin's territorial claims might even expand further, which is good news actually, as the bigger is the monster's appetite, the bigger the chance it will starve to death. Meanwhile, Ukraine has got itself a new prime minister. Yulia Sviridenko became the new leader of the government. She is known for signing the minerals deal with the United States and attracting vast numbers in international financial aid while she served as the Minister of Economy of Ukraine. Let us wish her luck at her new chair and professional resolve in the harsh challenges that the new government still has to face. In mid-July, the European Union's High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kaja Kallas, confirmed Russia was increasing the use of chemical weapons in its war against Ukraine. This concern of the US top diplomat was based on reports from German and Dutch intelligence. According to the data, since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, Russia has used prohibited chemical weapons at least 9,000 times on the territory of Ukraine. Russia claims to have destroyed all the old stockpiles of such chemicals, but they, of course, had all the possibility to create new dangerous prohibited substances that Russia might use against EU infantry and civilians. That is European leaders' concern, and knowing Russia for a good reason. Germany is changing US President Donald Trump's rhetoric towards Ukraine. According to the Wall Street Journal, Chancellor Friedrich Merz has managed to gain the trust of the US leader and even convinced him to agree to supply arms to Ukraine. This is the first such move by Washington since Trump's return to the White House. How did Merz manage to do that, achieving what is no less than a breakthrough? And how many weapons will actually Kyiv receive now? And at whose expense? My colleagues will talk you through the matter.
5 Patriot air defense systems. That's how many U.S. President Donald Trump offered to sell to German Chancellor Friedrich Merz to strengthen Ukraine's air defenses. According to the Wall Street Journal, the proposal came on the evening of July 11th, right after Trump saw footage of yet another wave of Russian missile attacks on Ukraine. While it was those attacks that primarily pushed Trump toward this decision, a significant role was also played by the German Chancellor himself. The report states that Merz's pragmatic approach and business background helped build a strong rapport with Trump. Merz succeeded in convincing the U.S. president that Berlin is willing to finance the deliveries. This was made possible in part by recent constitutional reforms in Germany that now allow for borrowing, a move unavailable to his predecessors.
Merz found the right approach, and now he gets to talk to Trump on his cell phone and engage in checkbook diplomacy. Unlike French President Emmanuel Macron and others, he can actually put his money where his mouth is. Nico Lange, former chief of staff to the German defense minister. In a comment to the Wall Street Journal, we're hearing a very clear, very leadership-oriented position from Mr. Merz in terms of Germany being ready to reclaim its role as a dominant, independent force in Europe, one that is ready to invest intensively in defense and reshape the European security architecture. And in that regard, both Germany and Merz personally are fully supportive of Ukraine.
Following the conversation with Trump, Germany is expected to transfer 2 Patriot systems from its own arsenal to Ukraine, and in return, order new ones from the U.S. at an estimated cost of about $2 billion, reports the Wall Street Journal. Another system will be funded by Norway. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte previously said that Denmark, Finland, and Canada may also contribute financially to additional systems.
We can say the process has moved into the stage of implementation, into specifics. That means we're no longer just talking about political will or decisions. We're at a point where these decisions will start being carried out, with varying speed. Some weapons are already in Europe and can be delivered to Ukraine quickly. As Trump said, some deliveries could take just a few days, while others may take longer.
Close aides to Chancellor Merz, according to the Wall Street Journal, are convinced that the decisive factor behind President Trump's shift in stance on Russia's aggression and his approval of military aid to Ukraine was Merz's willingness to pay for American weapons. The German Chancellor has repeatedly stated that Berlin will support Ukraine for as long as necessary and is ready to play a leading role in purchasing Patriot systems to protect Ukrainian skies.
We are doing this in our own interest. This will help Ukraine defend itself against Russia's bombing terror. Only in this way will the pressure on Moscow to finally negotiate peace grow. Ultimately, we are demonstrating that we are pulling together as security policy partners. Friedrich Merz, Federal Chancellor of Germany, on X social network.
The Patriots are not the only weapons headed to Ukraine under the new agreements with the Trump administration. However, Berlin won't disclose details for now, said German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius after meeting with his U.S. counterpart in Washington. Speaking publicly about it at this stage, he said, would be inappropriate.
We've agreed to keep this confidential until it's clear what the results will be in the coming weeks. Speaking about it now would be the wrong approach. We want to become less predictable in what we do.
German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius also confirmed that Europe will, quote, have to open its wallets wider and faster to buy arms for Ukraine's armed forces. According to him, Washington is no longer planning to foot the bill for these deliveries. That responsibility will fall on European allies. Although the final parameters are still being discussed, working groups are expected to finalize all the details in the near future. Reported by Nikita Skoblikov, UATV News.
That was it for today. My name is Nikita, and we are exactly News Pulse at UATV. We thank you so very much for your time and attention. We appreciate it. Thank you. Please don't forget to join our fight for freedom and sovereignty by subscribing and commenting. Your voice helps Ukrainian voice to be heard worldwide. Hope to see you very soon. Stay tuned and goodbye.